Good afternoon. Joe Wenberg, Wilbert Semaphore, and I'm going to do World History for Ordinary People, edition 21. And this is going to continue with the East Asia theme. And if you remember, I'm going to do a couple of kind of vignettes or something like that. Vignettes. And you remember the last time I was talking, I went on a little bit of a rant about the libraries not being open. Well, and I said, if there's any Catholics, maybe they could say a novena if they find out who's the patron saint of the libraries. And then I said, there has to be one. I said, I'll look that up. And lo and behold, I have this wonderful little book. It's like a saint for every day. It's a great looking book. It's only maybe 5.5 by 4.5 inches, very thick, 600-700 pages. Beautiful paintings by the old masters of all these 500 plus saints. And I did find two that I will say that they are in that category of being patron saints for things having to do with the libraries and books and so on. And one of them is St. John the Evangelist, who of course was a disciple of Jesus, so he was around when Jesus was around. And he wrote, of course, one of the Bibles, the New Testament account according to John. So, and he's the protector of booksellers, writers, stationers, and typographers. But the point is, he would fit in that category. But when I went to this book, the guy I really had in mind was St. Jerome, whose birth date is 347 AD. And this gentleman wrote the Vulgate. Now, the Vulgate, you may be familiar with that term. It's the Latin translation of the Bible. But he's the protector of the learned, students, archaeologists, I can't see what this other word is, but pilgrims, librarians, and translators. There's another one in here, I can't make out what it is. So, St. Jerome, 347, that's his beginning date. Patron saint of libraries and other things book related and scholarly related. So folks, go out, pray to these guys, make some novenas, tell them to get the libraries open. They're important so that people can gather information that will keep them appraised or apprised, or any word you want to use, of the history of the world. And we do want our people to understand and know the history of the world. Because as they say, if you don't know what happened in the past, you're liable to make the same mistakes again. So there you go. I said I would do it, and I did it. Now I also want to make sure that these dynasties that I wrote down last session, which would have been World History 20, I want to make sure that they're definitely recorded, although it's easy enough to find these types of things. You just type in dynasties, China, and there are enough of them. Just like from that, the next thing I wanted to do was I wanted to start to break this China thing and this East Asia thing as it relates to China down into provinces and districts and so on. And there's quite a few, it's 22 plus autonomous states and so on and so forth. But the web brought that to my attention. However, I want that by books. That's what I want. So, be that as it may, as I'm looking up some of these, districts and provinces of China, I came across this information. And fortunately, I've done a little reading about China, Central Asia, the Silk Road, Tibet, the Talamalakan Desert, something like that. The Tarim Basin, let's just call it. And so I was able to navigate myself around a little bit when I came across the name place Karakoram. Well, Karakoram was a place in north central Mongolia. And I didn't look at a contemporary map, but it's probably still there and probably spelt similar. But that was the eastern terminus of the Silk Road. And that was the long-standing ancient capital of the Mongols. As a matter of fact, Genghis Khan was there before he was further down into China proper, which is where I was trying to get. But I got to a name place because it's impacting how I'm thinking about this, Xanadu. Because I wanted to know, is it a real place or what is this thing, Xanadu? So Xanadu is the place that Marco Polo rested his eyes on when he took his long march. 17 years that expedition took. But he knew it as Shangdao or Shangdu, Shangtu. And that's what he's got in his travels with Marco Polo, which is one of the reasons I was always confused, because I couldn't find any mention of Xanadu when I read the travels of Marco Polo. Undoubtedly, they're in a footnote somewhere, and maybe I glossed over it. Who knows? But Zhengdu was a common way to refer to Xanadu. Once again, the confusion due to multiplicity of terms, names for one place. Now, so what happens is Genghis Khan, I think in about 1220, started construction of Xanadu. It's going to be a fabled city. But he didn't finish it, and it was left to his son and then his grandson, Kublai Khan, to put the final touches on Xanadu, Shangdao, or Shangdu. Okay, and they do. However, for whatever reason, it wasn't good enough, or it probably wasn't located quite where he would have wanted it to be. He probably wanted it to be more in the heart of the Chinese nation, the Chinese empire, because he was taking it over and he was going to rule from their center. So he moves a little further south and east, and through the once again issuance of multiple names, he builds this new place in what is now Beijing, formerly Peking, and formerly two other names at least. So, but that was going to be their general capital, their general seat of government, of the Chinese government, under the Mongol rule. Kublai Khan, thank you very much. And Xanadu and Shangdu would be the summer palace. Now, I mean, I don't think they could make it any more difficult, but they have. So at least after a lot of research and a lot of thought about Xanadu and the Summer Palace and the seat of government. I think I have it all mapped out. As a matter of fact, if that whiteboard wasn't filled with those dynasties, I was going to put a small map of China that I would have drawn. And I don't know if you could see this, but if you can, I have little black dots. The little black dot at the top, that's Karakoram. That's the ancestral ancient seat of the Mongol people. Then down here you would have, this would have been Xanadu, Shangdo, and this would be Peking, a little closer to the eastern seaboard. And so this area is, of course, Mongolia, both the inner and the outer. Up here would be Manchuria. And this would be essentially the ancestral home of the Han people. The Han people, many people believe, scholars and such, that the Han people are the original Chinese people. If you want an original Chinese person, you would go get yourself a Han, H-A-N. And it stands to reason. It's in that area of the Big Bend in the Yellow River, which is considered the epicenter of the Chinese people. So that being said, this led me to want to explore Samuel Taylor Coleridge epic poem Kubla Khan, which is of course all about Xanadu. And I was going to read it to you, but unfortunately I haven't figured out a way to have Xanadu in front of me while this cell phone movie camera is recording a video, because that's where I would have read it from there. And it's a shame because it's a very grabbing piece of poetry. And once again, though, caused all sorts of confusion in my feeble brain because, I'm always looking for a poem that's called Xanadu, but it's not. It's called Kubla Khan, who's a person, he's not a place. But, there's a lot of tricksters out there. You have to watch them. There's those tricksters, they're trying to trick you. So it's a lovely poem. If you get a chance, I would, if you haven't, or if you've forgotten much about it, I would get up and read it again. And, know the lay of the land, where these places are, whatever it is, Karakoram, where that is, and then try to map in your mind the Silk Road of the northern stretch of it over the Tarim Basin, coming from East Asia into the eastern Caspian Sea area, and then also the southern route of the Silk Road that went out of places like the Pamirs and out of Persia and down and below the Tarim Basin, and through Tibet and up, and then through parts of central China to meet up once again in Karakoram. I don't believe that I'm prepared to talk much about anything else. Yes, there was another subject. And, I've been using, as we were talking about East Asia, I've been I've been using the terms interchangeably. East Asia and Far East. Now, what should I be using? I don't think there's a should I in this, but because either term would apply to what I'm trying to cover here. East Asia, I'm covering all the places that are part of East Asia, including, and I've said this often, Japan, Korea, Vietnam, the Southeast Chinese, Southeast Asian islands, archipelagos. Okay? What it doesn't cover is India, Nepal. It doesn't cover Afghanistan, Pakistan, or those places, although parts of the Silk Road emanate from there. But East Asia, it's not that. We have to be closer to the eastern seaboard of Asia to think East Asia. All right? And these other places really don't fall into that. It's okay that we will talk about them a little bit here and there because they're relevant to the discussion. But the real discussion is things like what was going on 1000 CE in southern China. What was going on between those folks and the northern Chinese? How long has this thing in Vietnam been going on before the French marched in there and said, uh-oh, Indochina, that's ours, you know? To make even more hostilities, where there's always been a great deal of hostilities between the people of Vietnam and the people of China. You know, so all these things are discussions that we're going to have and we want. And we want to talk about. It's really an endless topic. I may be on this thing for 20 years, but I hope not, because I do want to get into other areas of the world. But I did say that I'm doing the project, the East Asia project, once again, paintings, and I showed you the first 4 last time. Now this will be the 5th, and I don't know if I mentioned what I wanted to call it, but I'm calling it the yin and yang of East Asia. Okay? The yin, Y-I-N, and yang, Y-A-N-G, of East Asia. I hope you can see that. And someday, if necessary, I can explain a little bit why I'm calling this the yin and yang of East Asia. But the two figures in there are unlike each other, so that there's that separation, and that's why I'm calling it that. And I got paint on my hands because that's not too dry yet. So with that, folks, I'm going to wrap up this rather abbreviated, short World History for Ordinary People, edition 21. I hope you come back and see Bulwark 74 again soon. And